everybody. Thanks for attending another Tuesday webinar. I'm Liz Downing, e-commerce marketing manager at Takeometrics. I've got my friend Pearl from First Choice Shipping with me today. Pearl, say hi.
Hello. Thanks for having me, Liz.
And so good to see you. We were just now talking about seasonal allergies and all the pollen out there. So if either of us sneeze, you'll have to excuse us. It's just extra pollen. It's 2021, so why not have that just added to the challenges and opportunities that we face. A couple of housekeeping items. We are recording this session. I see the little red thing that says this session is being recorded. The recording will go out with the transcripts and with a short little recap to all attendees. And that's good. And to all registrants too. So if you've got a friend that can't be here today and they're missing it and they're telling you, I'm so sad that I can't join the webinar, tell them not to worry. It will be okay. I think that we have our friend Andrew Johnson joining us in a couple moments. He's got a nice perspective that relates to our content. We're going to talk about overcoming supply chain disruptions. And there's nobody better to talk about that than Pearl, because she and First Choice Shipping have sort of paved the way for brands and sellers on the Amazon platform to be able to achieve international expansion, to get their products into other markets. And I thought it would be helpful if we started off with a little background on First Choice, just for the people that don't know you. And then at the end, I'll talk a little bit about Takeometrics.
Sure, absolutely. I love talking about our origin and where we come from, because it's such a great story. Because when things happen to people that don't expect it, it's so much more exciting, I guess. So we started about 11, 12 years ago, and we initially started out as a company that was just trying to help sellers that were looking to ship into Amazon UK. At that time was considered like literally the gold rush of Amazon markets. It was something that people were exploring to do when they couldn't figure out how to ship there in a affordable way and a successful way. So we started offering shipping into the UK, and we were able to, the same idea as like how you go to Costco and you get from Costco those really great brands at much better rates because of their buying power. Same idea as like what we do with carriers like UPS, FedEx, DHL. We bring you their service, but we do it in a very large scale, and we're able to then offer much better rates than when you go with them directly. Now, why do people use us? Because Amazon doesn't provide international shipping, because they don't want to get involved with all the little details of customs and order of record, returns that they can't provide because it's also coming, internationally. So we started out as a company doing just the UK, and then slowly we see people need, Canada was a close second. Like, how about Canada? And we started expanding one FBA location over the other that was global, where Amazon didn't provide the option. Fast forward a couple of years later, we actually had a couple of our clients that were visiting the CES show in Vegas because they were, trying to source some product. It's the biggest electronics show of the year. And Amazon likes to have a presence over there where they have Amazon account managers that will help people maintain their account, or Amazon global representatives, and help people that are already successful in the US expand it and branch their company out to, let's say, the UK or Canada, etc. So we had a couple of our clients that were there, and at the same time, they were meeting up with their reps that were helping them, expand their portfolio. So they met with these reps, and the reps asked them, what would you say you're doing differently than other sellers, because we see that you guys are super successful. What's the secret sauce, as they called it? And they told them, we're actually using this small company called First Choice Shipping, located in Brooklyn, and they're doing a really good job with shipping and handling, what we need in order to be able to ship successfully, with compliance stuff and all that. And they got really excited. And that night, I actually received an email from Amazon saying we'd like to talk. And of course, I answered that email like literally early in the morning 2, 3 a.m. because, yes, exactly. I couldn't believe it, right? And yeah, so fast forward, literally, we've been working with them for, over the years, and we work very closely with them with every market that they're looking to start an FBA program. We work with them to see how can we successfully ship into that location. And I would say most of our client base is coming directly from them, and it's just been incredible. So yeah, everything we do right now is Amazon related shipping. So yeah, we just love what we do.
And you're so, so good at it. I mean, honestly, I talk to so many sellers and brand owners, and I have never heard a single negative word about you, you especially, and your commitment to customer service, your commitment to your team, and the way you just create solutions across the board. Everybody's just got fantastic feedback. You're a rock star.
Thank you.
Um,
Appreciate it.
well, I mean, the whole industry appreciates what you're doing. So we're going to do another webinar with a couple other people in about a month, a little less than a month. And those of you that are attending today that are interested in these types of topics, that's going to be sort of like a bigger, higher level strategy on international expansion on Amazon. So Yana is coming back. She was with me last week with YLT Translations. We're going to have TJ from Payoneer, Tom from Avask, and Pearl is used to hanging out with those people because they do a lot of work together. But I really encourage you to submit your questions today, because any questions that we don't get to, we're going to queue up in that webinar. So this is a free form conversation. There's a question section in your GoToWebinar panel. Please just put your questions there. Don't be shy. We'll be taking them throughout. If we've got time at the end, we'll do a Q&A to clean up questions. But I find that it's a lot more helpful to take questions as we're on a particular topic, because it keeps the conversation flowing, and it makes a lot more sense when you're watching it afterwards or you're reading the transcript. So let's talk a little bit first about why the Amazon Global Marketplace opportunity is so incredibly huge right now, despite the other things we're going to talk about, like COVID, like Brexit, all that kind of stuff. It's still an enormous opportunity.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that? Well, and I think that we can talk a little bit about the whole aggregator thing too. And there are a lot of businesses that are making decisions that an aggregator, like a purchaser, would make for them. So instead of selling, they're just going to do the things that they need to do to expand, and they're kind of taking a cue from how these roll-ups are doing things. But do you think it's because Amazon itself wants people to expand to other marketplaces, or do you think that it's that the consumers in those particular areas want the products that are available on .com and not yet available on those marketplaces? Do you think it's a combination of the two? Is there something else I'm not thinking of? Like, tell me what you think.
Yeah, it's definitely a combination of what you mentioned. Whenever there's something that's difficult to do, or at least from the outside, it seems like it's difficult, right? It's something new, it's a new concept. There's always a level of, we could actually achieve something much bigger than what we're currently doing because somebody else is not going to do it, right? So when sellers are actually taking that step and saying, wow, we found actually a service provider that could make this happen, have in mind there's so much of your competition that doesn't know about that. This is like what we say, this is your golden nugget that somebody else doesn't have the opportunity to do or have, right? It's obviously there's so many different intricate details on selling on Amazon.com now. It's all about the PPC with what you guys do, and then it's about the listings, and of course it's the product, and then you have to be innovative. But that's just where it stops. When it comes to figuring out how to get my inventory in, once your inventory is in FBA, great. When it comes to international selling, there's a setup process. There's the VAT registration. There's can I actually ship this in general? Like, is it compliant to customs? And then once it's compliant Maybe I need certain licensing. So there's certain things that if you don't have the right guidance, hey Andrew, if you don't have the right guidance, it can sometimes feel very overwhelming. And that's where people are like, I'm not even gonna get started. And then of course, you mentioned about people wanting those American made products. Yes. In Germany, for example, peanut butter is like the hottest item. Peanut butter, like you would never think, but when it comes to American products, people go crazy. In the UK, like candy bars and things like that. I'm talking about food now, I'm hungry. So like, when it comes to like certain items, people are like, we can't get this in the local grocery. But you could get it on Amazon, right? So the fact that you have the opportunity to just take what you're actually selling right now and just the same exact thing and expanding, there's something to be said about it. And of course, Amazon wants to dominate the world and they are going to push you. And it's interesting, but we found that sellers that expanded and they were successful. We work with some of the largest brands on Amazon.com. They were already successful. We found that when they expanded, not only did their business internationally expand, but their presence in the US somehow exploded too. And it almost sounded like a conspiracy, but there has to be something in the algorithm that Amazon has where they want you to dominate worldwide. And the minute you have that presence, it affects every single part of your business. So we found that, yeah, all across the board, it's something that the international selling thing, it's a tremendous opportunity.
Thank you for that. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. I'd like to introduce Andrew Johnson. Andrew is a strategist here at Teikametrics, and he's got actually his own brand too. I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about that, and has encountered some supply chain disruptions. So I thought it would be great if he joined us today, so that we can talk through some real life examples. And I know Pearl's got a ton of them. We do have some questions that have rolled in already. One person has actually asked about shipping from China to the US, EU, and UK in about a month, and they want a quote for it. So I'm just going to send them over to you since I don't expect you to live quote on a webinar. But just so you know, Jan, I will be sending your question to Pearl, and Pearl can respond to you offline. Another person asked, and I think this kind of cues up the whole things have changed in the EU thing. I was advised to take advantage of Amazon EU fulfillment channel. You should send your products to France because customs is holding up inventory in other countries. Is that true?
Yes, that is true. But we actually have a beta program that we're running right now where we're shipping in through the Netherlands. And from the Netherlands, it's clearing in the Netherlands and then it's making entry then into whichever EU country, right? Because the Netherlands is considered part of the EU. And we are ejecting shipments into Germany that way, and it's moving beautifully, fantastic. So if you want to join that program, we can absolutely send the shipment that way. Because the reality is, the problem people have with shipping into France is that Amazon's supply chain and their whole setup over there is just not as robust as in Germany. And nobody was prepared for Brexit. That's the reality of the situation. Nobody, including the carriers. So up till December 31st, shipments, everything was beautiful, fantastic. January 1st, everybody had a whole list of all their SOPs and how all this is gonna work. Everything literally was scratched, like it didn't work. So things came up to the border and German customs said, okay, you're gonna have to give us a list of like literally 12 different things. It changed overnight and it keeps changing. So like you said, we try to be creative over here. So instead of trying to get it through Germany directly, because like it's a nightmare right now, and even if somebody figured it out, great, but you figured it out in a way that it's just taking very long to get in because everything gets held up. And when it gets held up, they ask for a ton of information. And instead of going through that, we figured out a way of going through the Netherlands. So it's going through the Netherlands, taking just a couple days, not weeks, and it's working beautifully. And the supply chain in Germany, like I said, is great with Amazon. So the problem people have with France is that they arrive over there and it takes forever for Amazon to receive it. And then from there, they're not as close to their customers. And you know how the algorithm with Amazon works, right? The closer you are to your customer, the better the buy box will be for you. The issue is that the German marketplace is the largest marketplace for most people, And if their product is in France, it's not working as effectively as they'd like it to. So this solution hopefully is gonna definitely change things for people.
That's great. And I think the addition of the Netherlands has helped a whole lot. Do you think, I mean, so France might be a little bit better than Germany right now, but France is also in enormous lockdown over COVID.
Yes,
It's back and it's ugly right there. So like France is locked down. Is that impacting?
yes. And it's also the local laws, right? So yeah, COVID is a huge factor. But some countries are implementing laws in a different way. With France, it's not about, okay, if you're gonna work with social distancing or if you're gonna comply with certain things, we can make it work. In France, it's you have to shut down, period. So even if you're Amazon, Amazon somehow got away with everything in the US, but with keeping things going. You see the Prime trucks, they're all around over here. I'm in Brooklyn. There's no disruption, period. But in France, they said, Amazon, I don't care your name is Amazon, you gotta shut down. So it wasn't, they were not able to do anything. So that was also a huge factor. Aside from, how they're set up, they literally have to shut down their warehouses.
Yeah, it's been so long, but I was reading the news this morning and apparently Brazil, it's really bad in Brazil. It's really bad in France. It's on the rise in the US too. So
Yeah,
it's something to think about. Definitely.
yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about, well, first we have a question about Netherlands. So are you shipping to a Netherlands FC for distribution into Germany and the EU as a whole? If so, do we also have to get a VAT for the Netherlands? This adds the cost of VAT filing in Germany and the Netherlands.
So I love that question because it gets me to pump the service even more. Why am I saying that? You do not need a Netherlands VAT number, which is fantastic. We will represent you. So you do not need a VAT number for the Netherlands. It will not make a stop in the Netherlands physically. It will, maybe physically, but meaning to say it's not being dropped off to any FC and then from there forwarded somewhere else. It literally is just crossing through there, clearing there, and then continuing into Germany. So there's no delay. There's a delay by a day, but there's no delay of, but dropping it off into a warehouse and then, all that stuff.
Right, because Therese just commented that she was told to get VAT registered in EU countries for Amazon and the backlog is like 4 months. So if someone uses your services, they can kind of bypass that.
They will need a VAT number in the EU. So what I would recommend is they get registered in Italy first, because in Italy it's pretty quick. And yeah, again, Amazon the infrastructure is not amazing in Italy, but if you want to get started, that's a great way to start. And then you'll be able to ship it to Italy. We can provide that service. And in the meantime, yes, you will want to get registered to, let's say, Germany or France, and then we'll help you, get your inventory into those locations.
That's awesome. So part of that strategy, that which country to choose and where to get registered for VAT first and all that kind of stuff, is part of what we talked about when we advertised this webinar, strategies to lower shipping costs and decrease lead time. That obviously decreases lead time. We've had a couple people talk about their specific products, and I imagine that there are different logistics associated with the type of product that you're shipping. So someone early on said that they manufacture and sell a 1 ounce roll-on cosmetic. So what are some strategies for that type of product versus just like a hard goods product that can't leak and all that kind of stuff? Like what kind of, depending on the type of product you sell, what kind of things do you have to think about when you're thinking about your shipping costs, packaging costs, all that kind of stuff? And then what kind of hoops do you have to jump through when you've got a product that might have an expiration date, might have hazmat, might have, some other special designation, leakable, breakable? What are some things that people can think about in order to reduce the cost? Because that can get very, very expensive, can't it?
Absolutely. But I like to look at it in many different ways, because people don't realize that even though you're super successful in the US right now, it takes time until a new marketplace optimizes, right? It usually takes about 6 months from what we've seen, based on the trends that people have on how they ship. So it might seem that in the beginning, yeah, I want to send a whole container or even 2 pallets because it's cheaper, and I'll use, a C option, which we do provide. Um, Depends from where or when. We would have to, quote that, offline if somebody's interested. But we do provide the C option, right? But not necessarily does it end up being the cheapest option, because you need to take into account your product might sit there for a while, and then you have those storage costs that are going to incur. What's the point with that? Or you might be laying out a lot of extra VAT, the import taxes on things that are not going to get sold for a long time. So it might be worth it. We always tell people to quote with both options. It might be worth it to send a smaller shipment, just a couple boxes, like for this example that you gave me for this 1 ounce roll-on. The question is how many pieces actually fit into a box, and quote it out and see what is it worth it for me. If I do send only 1 carton or 2 cartons, and I'm able to fit, let's say, 100 pieces or 200 pieces, how much is it actually costing me per piece? And then do the math. And if you're able to still make a profit, it's still worth it than going that route of sending us so much inventory where you don't know for sure if it's actually going to sell. You need to try this thing out.
Well, and that's why, going back to last week's webinar, the localization type of research that Yana was recommending. So not only once you choose to sell a product in an international marketplace, especially in a language that you don't know, in a culture that you might not be familiar with, you kind of have to do your due diligence in terms of like, will this product actually go over in this marketplace?
Yeah.
She gave an example of like a t-shirt with smiley faces on it that was like kitschy and kind of silly, and she showed it to her German team and they were like, yeah, we wouldn't buy that. So getting an opinion of somebody who's actually native to the country that you're trying to sell in is usually a good idea before you go ahead and go to the trouble of getting your listing up, making sure it's translated, making sure your bullet points are appropriate for that audience, and then actually shipping however many of that SKU into a marketplace where you're not sure how it's going to perform. So like doing that research ahead of time, I think is pretty important. So that's when you don't know how many you're going to sell. We've got somebody with a question about what if you have a lot of something that you want to ship into the EU. This person, Ryan, says, we would like to ocean ship our own product from China to Amazon FBA in the EU, but we don't know how to send in large quantities that Amazon would accept. We could never do this with the many shipments of limited inventory that Amazon allows. Are we missing something? Is there some way to ship large quantities into Amazon EU FBA?
Unfortunately, with their restrictions on how much you can send in, there's a cap, unfortunately, on what you can send in. And it's something that people have struggled with. So the only recommendation I can make is to find a 3PL in the EU that you could ship it into. And I know that Andy from GEE has a facility in the Netherlands, and they do a great job there. So we would tell you ship it there, and then from there you could then send in increments your supply.
Right.
But otherwise, the small parcel way is just the best way, which is through the carriers.
But obviously that's an enormous cost if you're trying to ship from container from China, which is obviously the most cost effective way to do it.
Yes.
But then what do you do with it in the meantime when you can't send it all into FBA? So yeah, 3PL is the best recommendation for that. And I've been meaning to come up with a good list of 3PLs. So maybe we should work on that together. Yeah, I smell a white paper brewing. Or an ebook or something. But yeah, a 3PL. And if you need recommendations on that, my email address, I'm going to put it in the chat right here. If I can get to the chat, is LDowning@takeametrics.com. So yes, definitely 3PL is the answer to that question. So this is like kind of unrelated to what we were talking about, but I think that it's relevant to the whole conversation and it's a good foundation for the rest of the conversation. Jan says that Amazon Global Logistics is not heavily advertised even on Amazon. Why would that be?
So firstly, they only do it from China. Second, they don't provide you with everything else you need, right? So why would a carrier like UPS want to work with a company like First Choice? Why would they partner up with us, right? They can do everything we can, or they can't, right? When it comes to all these little, how do you say it? These little intricate details to actually make it happen, that's why they're not heavily advertising their service. And that's why a carrier like UPS says, oh, we need First Choice shipping. Because you need the compliance, you need the importer of record or the indirect representation, as some people call it. You need somebody to guide you on that registration. And then you need someone to ultimately help you if you need to do a removal order, because Amazon won't provide that either. And for them, that is a very personal kind of service, and they cannot provide that on a corporate level. So for those reasons, Amazon Global Logistics doesn't provide this as a package deal. So I can say we are a shipping provider. We are an Amazon International Global expansion provider. That's what we try to help you with. It's much more than the shipping.
Do you focus mainly on European countries or can you do Australia?
We do Australia, we do UAE,
Poland?
we do Singapore, we're gonna hopefully very soon, Saudi Arabia, which other ones? Canada, big one. Pretty much anywhere except for Mexico, Brazil, and that's it. Pretty much anywhere Amazon has a global presence. And they have
That's
FBA.
awesome.
FBA, that's our specialty.
So we have an attendee who actually has a good customer base in Australia, but it can be difficult to get goods there. They've got a small product with acetone, but it manages to get an exception in terms of hazmat. So I'm gonna actually send you their contact information so they can talk through that with you.
Awesome.
We're getting a lot of those that I'm just gonna lob right over to you after. So it's already been a crazy day for you.
Love it,
It's gonna
love
get a
it.
little crazier.
We love helping people. That just makes me as happy as it could possibly make me, honestly. Best feeling ever.
This is a good question. It's very tactical, but if we have stock in the UK right now, can we ship small parcels through First Choice from there into the EU?
Not at the moment. Not at the moment, but tell them to send us the message. It's something that we're working on and hopefully very soon. If not, we'll make a recommendation on who else they could use.
Okay, Janet, I'll get your question over to Pearl and she'll follow up with you.
Awesome.
So you guys don't offer 3PL services, but you have 3PL companies that you trust and that you refer, and so do we, and I think they're probably the same companies.
Yeah, we're not in the warehousing business, but we know how important it is, for the supply chain. So we work very closely with them. They know us and we know them. We actually make sure we vet whoever we recommend and not only vet, but make sure that they keep up with those standards. So we will definitely be able to make a recommendation just like you.
Great. We're getting a question about animal-based products. Is there anything different that anybody needs to know about that?
So it depends to where. Animal-derived products could be an issue, but again, it depends, how much of a percentage of the product has the animal derivatives in it, what kind of animals, is it fish, is it, livestock? It really, really depends on that kind of stuff.
I think this is particularly fish oil vitamins.
Fish oil vitamins. So it depends. They should reach out to us. We'll take a look at the labeling and we'll have our compliance team tell them if it's an issue or not, depending on which marketplace they're looking to get into. But we successfully ship this product, but it depends to where. So we could definitely.
Right. I think this seller is UK based and they're trying to ship to different European marketplaces. So
Okay, so let's look into it and we'll.
Katarina, I'll get your contact information over to Pearl. Um, so what are some of the biggest mistakes people make when they try to do this themselves?
What are some of the biggest mistakes? So some of the most trivial, basic ones are trying to bill Amazon for the taxes, right? So typically when you're shipping into, I know, right? But typically the way it works at international standards is that when you're shipping a package to somebody, the receiver pays for the taxes. And people that are shipping into Amazon need to know, you need to make sure that it's very clearly marked on the commercial invoice, which is basically the invoice letting customs know who's paying for the shipping, what you're shipping, where it's shipping from and to, just the details, sort of like, a receipt when you're buying anything really, and letting them know that the taxes need to be billed to the shipper, which is going to be yourself or the provider that you're working with. Those are some basic stuff that people don't, take into account. You need to have somebody representing you, importer of record, which I mentioned a couple times here. But you need to have somebody in the forwarding country that will represent your product or represent you as a company. So if there's any security issues or any questions at all, they know they have somebody they can reach out to. Some of the things that people don't do properly. And then of course, setting up the registrations for, taxes and things like that. Don't try to do this on your own. We definitely recommend working with a provider. We recommend Avast. We work closely with them and they do a great job. Actually, Amazon recommends them as well. But some of these things are, people try to do this on their own and then they end up just giving up before they even begin because it becomes so overwhelming. And it might just, not might, it's just gonna be more expensive doing it yourself anyway. So you might as well work with somebody that will get you all this for all in one deal.
That's great.
Hey, Pearl.
Hey,
Yeah.
I'm gonna finally, sorry for being late. Had some computer issues. Question for you. I have a very small brand on Amazon. It's actually an inflatable chair brand. And I noticed, in the past, a few shipments I've had from them so far that we've had some serious issues with, getting the products in a timely way, and we're having a problem with a different problem with maybe like the quality of what we're looking for. I guess I know there's a lot of recent changes with people manufacturing from different countries. Like, do you find there's a shift kind of coming away from Amazon at different places in the world, or what trends have you seen kind of from there recently?
are you
Yeah,
asking?
so
Yeah.
people manufacturing in China, are you seeing a shift to like the actual origin of the product coming from other countries? Like, Mega does the whole program about how you can source and find manufacturers in India, and there are people like doing work where you can find manufacturers in Mexico. So are you
Right.
seeing a shift to like more global manufacturing?
There is a shift, right? There's definitely that shift where American made product, made in America. People have gone to the Dominican Republic, to Vietnam, India, but the truth is China's still the king. It's still just, it takes way longer to manufacture in other places. The quality is not the same. And even though there are so many delays coming out of China right now, it's still not as delayed as in places like India or Vietnam. People are not taking into account that their ports cannot handle more ships than it did till now. So very nice that you could manufacture something, but try getting it out. It's like they'll give you a date and who knows when. Okay, that's going to be your sailing date. Versus in China, we see that it's starting to loosen up. And we're predicting, the experts, I can't say I'm the expert that controls, the data on what's going to be, but they're predicting that in the summer, things should be much, much better when it comes to the container shipments.
Provided big ships don't get caught places,
Now what?
And provided big ships don't get caught in certain places.
Right? How crazy was that? How crazy was that?
How many people did you have calling you panicked, or
Oh,
was that?
it was funny because we had people having shipments that were totally not related and not even passing the Suez Canal. And they thought their shipments are gonna get held up, but, you know, we reassured them that you're not going that route. But quite a bit of shipments were going in that direction. But thank God they got it out. They thought it's gonna last longer. But yeah, yeah, I would say one thing, you know, people want to try to say that things are changing, but you know, the proof is in the pudding. At the end of the day, look at what stock is still coming out from China. They're the leader at the end of the day.
That's good to know. This is a great question about customs value. I know you love those.
Sure.
When we send our own product to Amazon FBA EU, how do we determine the customs value? So what is the calculation?
That's a great question. So you're actually going to put down the value of what you bought it for, your cost, not what you're selling it for, because it's not considered items that are sold, right? You're going to have Amazon's going to sell it for you. You're not, you have to put down the value of what it costed you to manufacture. So obviously that saves you quite a bit on taxes. But when you're shipping it to Germany directly, just so everybody knows this, shipping directly into Germany, they do require that you put the you have the value of what you're selling it for. And they will take a look at your storefront to verify that. So there's a big amount of taxes that you need to lay out before you're actually even selling the product. But across the board, for most Amazon marketplaces, you're gonna put your cost.
Okay, so your cost, not the value cost.
The sell price.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. And that was a very good question, Ryan.
Yeah, that was a good question, because a lot of people messed up with that.
How about the price of customs going into Japan?
What the rate is?
Well, so Vivian asks, is there a better way to value products going into Japan because customs is very expensive? So what do you need to know about shipping into Japan and the customs there?
So they are very, very stringent. I mean, they're tough to get into, but as long as you follow the rules and you're very descriptive with what you're shipping and all that stuff, your thing should move properly. I would tell her to reach out and maybe we'll see. We'll try to look up a harmonized code, a HS code or a tariff code. Everybody calls it something else, but that's the number that customs uses on the declaration. You know, every single item that you're shipping has a number in the customs database that equals that item. So if I'm shipping this bottle, they have a special number that they'll know, okay, number one means, okay, she's shipping these bottles. So everything could be declared in a smarter way. So for example, you'll have people that are shipping watches, right? There are gold watches, there are plastic watches, there are children's watches, adult watches. Every single watch has a different tax rate. So maybe we could try to look up for you a better HS code, as we call it. That will be a bit cheaper. So she can reach out and hopefully, you know, we could try to help.
I didn't even know about HS codes before I did a webinar like forever ago with Norm Farrar. And he was talking about like times that he's seen an HS code applied, and there was one that was actually even more relevant to the product that had a much lower cost associated with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely a strategy for saving money, I think, is making sure that HS code is relevant, because you don't want to fake that because that's against the rules. But you do want to make sure it's relevant to your product. But if there's one that costs you less, then there's no harm in that at all, because Japan uses the selling price rather than your price, your cost, right?
It depends. It depends. You could write the cost. It depends on how you're doing it. So what we try to help you do is ship it actually into a warehouse first, and then we forward it into Amazon. So you could actually write your costs and not what you're selling it for, because then it's outrageously expensive. And legally, you could write your selling costs because it's not sold yet. So whatever your cost is, that's what it is.
All right, great. So back to the EU and the UK, if someone is shipping into both, so they've got an Amazon.co.uk account, they've got different EU accounts, can they do one shipment into the Netherlands and it will go to both, or for the UK, do they have to ship specifically into the UK?
It's gonna have to be two separate shipments, yeah. So it's gonna be one to the UK and then it's gonna be one from the Netherlands, let's say, into Germany. But the good news is that the Netherlands has a very similar rating system like the UK. So they're not so stringent on those little details. And if you're writing, let's say, that you're shipping clothing, and you're not being so specific, like I'm shipping t-shirts, it's not gonna get flagged. Whereas in Germany, if you're not like to the letter, they're gonna flag your shipment. So the laws are very similar in Netherlands and the UK, which makes it so much more pleasant and easier to ship into.
So I say so a lot. I need to knock that off. That's an annoying tick, because when I watch these back, and I rarely watch these back for the me parts, I skip over the me parts and I just watch the you parts. But yeah, I get annoyed with myself and the sewing. So we've talked about some really like kind of down in the details, strategic ways to save costs, some strategic ways to actually get your products where they need to go. Why don't you give me some examples of some particular supply chain disruptions that some of your clients have seen lately, and you don't have to name names or like give like damning details. But let's just get a couple of like stories from the field that I think that will resonate with the people that are here.
Yeah. Yeah, so the biggest disruptions have been, what we brought up earlier, where certain FCs are just getting shut down and people cannot ship into FBA. So Brampton in Ontario and in Canada had a situation last week, the week before, really the last 2 months, where they shut it down, which is like the main hub where Canadian shipments are going into. And it's been a huge disruption for people, and it's been really difficult. And France, it's the second time now, maybe the third time, where people, that was their only entry into the EU. And I've had a client call me up and he's like, Pearl, my sales are down 50% because Brexit happened, and their inventory where they used to keep it in the UK was now, in the limbo, because Amazon wasn't doing, they have the Pan EU program, as they call it, where you were able to ship, let's say, to the UK, and then Amazon then distributed your product throughout the EU, which then included all the countries. And Brexit hit, and he wasn't able to ship just to the UK and then rely on his inventory getting into Germany through the Pan EU program. And so he started shipping through France, because it does take about 6 months to get a VAT number in Germany, which is a huge headache. So whoever's thinking of sending it to Germany at one point, just sign up, get started, because it takes a while. But going back to this, so he started for France, because France takes much faster to get a VAT number. He had a French VAT number, so he shipped it there. But then the shutdown happened, and these people really, these are real people with employees that are unfortunately really getting hit, and it's just sad to watch. It's very unfortunate, but this is what's happening. And of course, Andrew, you mentioned that you're having delays and stuff. This is like the game, the whole year really is playing, where game is the wrong word, but this is the trend of where people have had their factories turn from manufacturers that all of a sudden into PPE gurus, like they were just knocking out masks, and their inventory was on the back burner and it didn't matter. And then once they started, manufacturing again, it's like, oh, now I can't get a sailing day because there's so many boats going out and I just can't get my inventory on. So, it's been really difficult, but the good news is that we definitely see a light at the end of the tunnel, and we definitely see things loosening up. Like I could say, the first part of April has been a huge decline, let's say for Canada, but then we see that it's upticking. Like things are opening back up, obviously not as fast as we'd like for it to happen, but that's why people need to diversify and people need to have more than just one marketplace present, because the minute one went down, they're like, okay, at least I can have something coming from somewhere else. And I think that's the reason why it became like this crazy rush to expand. Like it became, after season was over, quarter four was over, quarter one, we've seen like this tremendous, like almost desperation, like get me started. Because people just are sick and tired of relying and saying, okay, this government now, is shutting things down now because there is an outbreak, there's a situation, but, I need to have an alternative. So I think that, the people that were just smart and did the right things or the ones that are getting smarter now are definitely, hopefully gonna have a much easier time because yeah, it's been disrupted as you said, it's been difficult.
So we had a question on how long it takes to get started. So if somebody hasn't done the rush yet and they just now want to get started on expansion, this person actually says we have everything ready to ship and we've got the listings set up on their
Beautiful.
different marketplaces, but they don't have a VAT in the EU. And you
Right.
have to get a VAT number for every marketplace, right?
Right.
There's
No,
not just
not for everyone. You don't need to get for everyone. Unless you're doing pan EU, right? If you're storing it just in one place, that's good enough. You could just get for one and one. But the good news is that actually Amazon has the not the pan, they have the Visa program, paid Visa program. Yeah, something like that. The Visa program, let's call it that. But they're actually paying you to get registered. And they have a list of different companies that they're actually giving you a voucher. So you could get free VAT registration in all 7 countries. So you should take advantage of it. But just do your due diligence on the list and use the ones that are actually good. Don't use the ones that are, their service is terrible. If you need a recommendation, feel free to reach out. I recommend Avast. They do a great job. Amazon reimburses for that. But I would recommend in terms of speed, if somebody wants to do something, really quickly, because VAT registration does take some time, I will tell you to go for it. But if you want to get started, like, who asked this question? I'm sorry, I don't see the chat box. What's her name?
Oh, sorry about that. So Fernando.
Fernando. Fernando, I would say get started with Canada, because Canada, we could get you started in as fast as 2 to 3 weeks. You could be live and shipping into Canada. We'll help you. It's called an NRI number, which is a non-resident ID, which is going to basically allow you to have somebody representing you in the foreign country, and we could set it up for you in-house. Actually, I'm going to throw this out right now. We'll do a promotion special for our listeners for today. If you mention this webinar, we'll do that for free. And once you have that, you can start shipping right away. So yeah, you could still make this happen, like at the end of this month or the beginning of next month. It's super fast.
We do have someone based in the UK area who sent stock to Canada and it wouldn't go through customs because they needed to have an OIR to sign off on it. So you can help with that kind of stuff,
That's
right?
what the NRI is actually. It's essentially the importer of record for them, and we'll help them to get it set up.
So mention this webinar and they will do this for you for free.
Oh yeah.
Actually, Fernando's already a customer of yours. He's just helping with questions. And he says he can 100% recommend first choice shipping.
Love that.
Which is not a surprise to me at all.
Thank you for your business, Fernando.
So I've actually gotten a couple of emails asking for that list of 3PL, so we kind of need to get on that pretty fast.
Oh, okay. We have work to do.
Yeah, we have homework. So you guys don't necessarily have homework, but we have homework. I wanted to touch on just a couple of, obviously lead time is sort of an X factor right now because there are delays because of COVID, there are delays because of other things. Ship stuck places, not anymore, but I mean, that was a heck of a thing. But generally, I think people are most interested in how to save money once they figure out the logistics end of things, which obviously is very complicated, and they should use a partner like you to help them figure that out. But how do you help people just reduce the overall cost of shipping altogether?
Yeah. So the way we do that is firstly, we'll recommend, to ship a bit more in a shipment just to reach a certain bracket so they can get better rates. We'll do that. And, with time, if there is a larger shipment, we'll recommend going with a different method of shipping that will be a little bit cheaper. And the good news is that we do have a variety. So for Canada, we'll do a small parcel for the most part, which just so people know, we actually have a lot of people that are getting onboarded for Walmart Canada now. And Walmart's telling them, oh, so you can use, in this case, it was FedEx, and people were using it through Walmart, and then they're like, wait, the rates are better with First Choice. So that's the point, is that the buying power, the same idea like when you're buying and shipping through Amazon and locally here in the US, nobody could compete with that. There's no way, because of the amount they're doing. So with us, essentially, what we're doing is we're bringing you our customer base all together, and we're bringing you those rates that are affordable. So those people for Walmart are starting to use First Choice's services as well because it made sense for them. But for Walmart, for Canada, we offer trucking and we offer small parcel, and based on the quantity, the type of item, we'll advise what makes the most sense for you. And for some people, keeping their listings going is more valuable and is more cash flow and more money than, paying a little bit less for shipping. And they'll opt for, even though trucking might be a little bit cheaper, they'll still go with small parcel. Why? Because for trucking, it's gonna take 3 weeks till it gets into Amazon. Small parcel, 2 days. So it really, depends on your business model, how you run things, but according to that, we'll definitely, advise what makes the most sense for you.
That's awesome. And I loved what you said about keeping your listing going, right? Because obviously you can have the best supply chain strategy in the world, but if your product isn't selling in these different marketplaces, then you're dead in the water. So that gives me the opportunity to talk a little bit about Psychmetrics, because obviously to keep your listing going, you're going to need to advertise. And before that, you actually need to have a really good listing. So that was why I had Yana on last week, because you might have the best optimized listing in the world on .com, but the way you've structured it, the words that you've used, the tone that you use might not work in Germany, might not work in France. So step one, have a great product, always. Step two, have an optimized listing that's localized for the marketplace that you're targeting. And step three, have a smart advertising strategy. Andy, I know that you're not so much in the like the service space, but I think that we're seeing an uptick in people who want to advertise on international platforms. Would you agree with that?
100%. I think, there's just so much opportunity outside of just the US to advertise on, like especially when it's so easy to advertise in Canada, Mexico, all of the EU, India. There's just a lot of opportunity. I will say that usually I recommend is that sometimes people will get, because it's very different, especially when someone doesn't really have like an effective or a strategy yet for actually how to ship product over different countries. I usually recommend that sellers, really make sure that we're getting all the low-hanging fruit and really optimize as much as possible for the country they're currently selling in before they jump into different countries. Nothing's worse than barely being just starting off in one country, then trying to branch off into like 4 or 5 other different countries. You want to get kind of one down and then move on to the next one. Usually I recommend, but definitely we're seeing a lot of interest in trying to advertise outside of just one particular area.
I was talking to one of our brands the other day, and they were like, I'm really bummed because on this marketplace or that marketplace, there aren't as many advertising options, which obviously .com is the most established, the oldest, the biggest Amazon marketplace, and it does take time to catch up on other marketplaces. But I think that the lower competition and perhaps the the potential of your product and the opportunity for your product might kind of make up for that if you can only do sponsored product ads on a certain platform, or you can, I feel like I've talked to a lot of people that have said the opportunity is there because your competition is lower. The opportunity is there because, like you said, I mean, they love peanut butter in Germany. If you've got a peanut butter brand, you're probably going to kill it. You just need to get over there. You just need to like get your peanut butter to Germany. And if you listen to these types of educational forums and you get into the LinkedIn groups and get into the Facebook groups, and I don't know, are you doing Clubhouse, Pearl?
Oh, you bet. What a time waster, but yeah. I love it, but it's a time waster.
So many people too. I was just doing an interview with somebody the other day that runs an influencer business, like a marketing and influencer business. And she says she goes to sleep listening to Clubhouse every night. And I'm like, well, I guess that knowledge is seeping in your
Wow.
sleeping brain too. I kind of keep missing the things that I want when I log on to it because I'm just like,
I have the same thing. Room is gone. Yeah.
I've definitely fallen into some like completely non-industry related conversations too, which have been, I mean, right now it's just kind of a free for all and people are saying whatever they want. So if you're not on Clubhouse yet and you have an iPhone, I strongly suggest you check it out. You can catch Pearl on there. I think Yoni's on there a good bit.
Yes.
Several of our industry friends are on there and they're just giving out free advice. So and you don't even have to register for it because people are just talking. You can like drive while you're listening. You can cook dinner. You don't have to be on camera, which is super compelling for me. Gives my eyelashes a break, right? We do have one question, and Jan has asked twice. So when the U.S. is an international marketplace to someone because they are based in another country, do you help with that too?
Yes, we could definitely help with that.
Okay, good. And how complicated is that?
It's not complicated at all, actually. It's sometimes even easier than any other marketplace. Depends on the product, right? But in general, it's easier. Yeah, the US is like a free situation. Yeah.
We love good news.
Yes.
But one thing to be aware of too, and I'm sure that you see this a lot, is that the rules are different depending on the marketplaces. So like Amazon.com has more rules than
Yes.
other marketplaces because it's more established, it's older, it's been around longer. So there are things that you can do on other marketplaces that you can't do on .com. So if you've been selling in the EU or you've been selling on .co.uk and you've got a certain product review strategy or you've got a certain listing strategy, you need to make sure that you're very, very familiar with the .com rules.
Yeah.
You know, the what we used to call TOS, and now it's they're not calling it TOS anymore. So terms of service, but the seller policies on .com are different than other marketplaces. So I urge you to study those and maybe make flashcards. I'm just kidding, don't make flashcards, but just be really, really familiar with the rules of .com because they are different than other marketplaces.
That's a great point.
Really foreboding too, just like end on a sour note.
It's true because people don't know what hit them. It's like, whoa, I can't do that. I can't do this. Yeah, just be prepared.
It's definitely different.
Yeah.
We're getting close to the top of the hour. I think most of the people who attended today want your ear. So, and send you big thank yous for such great information. We're going to have you back on the 15th. We're going to be addressing big success with global expansion. So what are the pieces of the puzzle to put it together for you to be very, very successful internationally, globally on Amazon? So I'm going to send Pearl all of the questions that were submitted today along with your email addresses. So you guys have said that that's okay. Pearl, thank you so much. You're a wealth of information and just a delight.
My pleasure. Right back at you. I really
thank you. We have so much fun together. And Andy, thank you for hopping on. I'm sorry that I sent him a bad link, so it's totally my fault. But we will see you next week. I'm going to have Don Henning on here talking about some Amazon success stories from different brands. So that should be fun. And if you have any questions, Elle Fickenscher at Takeometrics. I'm going to be including a special link in your replay email, encouraging you to sign up for this cool analysis that we're doing. So watch out for that. Watch the replay. Let us know if you have any questions, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.